Welcome to another audit walkthrough video from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, we're going to be going over Audit Area 1, and this is Section B. This is a remembering and understanding topic. Understand unconscious auditor biases and other impediments to acting with professional skepticism, including threats, incentives, and judgment-making shortcuts. And we're going to be doing that the SuperfastCPA way, which is diving straight into the questions. If you don't know much about our strategies, make sure you go to SuperfastCPA.com and check out our free 1-hour webinar training where we go over the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam. Again, it's 1 hour, it is free, and we will show you how to pass the CPA exam without wasting months or even years of your time. So make sure you check out that 1-hour webinar, and after you watch that, you're going to want to learn more, so make sure you check out becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member, because SuperfastCPA Pro members get access to not only the Pro course where Nate explains in detail exactly what you're supposed to be doing every day to pass the exams, but also they get access to the full 10-question versions of the videos that I typically make for these YouTube videos. Now, one thing I will say about this video is it's actually only going to be 5 questions long, whether you're a member or whether this is the YouTube version, just because this is quite a small topic. So normally, there is a 10-question version that I give to members on the forum where they can do more practice questions and get a little bit more understanding. But again, because this topic is pretty small and just doesn't need that much explanation besides the 5 questions that I created, we're only going to go over 5 questions in the YouTube video and in the member version. But again, normally they get access to the full 10-question version. So if you like this and you like our other videos, remember that by becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member, you get access to a lot of great stuff, including the full versions of these videos. With all that said, let's dive straight into the questions. Okay, here we are at question 1, and let's just dive straight in. Which of the following actions demonstrates professional skepticism during an audit? Is it A, reassessing the risk of material misstatement after identifying new fraud risk indicators? Is it B, trusting management's explanations without seeking corroborative evidence because of their strong integrity history? Is it C, avoiding the use of third-party confirmations to reduce audit costs? Or is it D, assuming that documents provided by management are fraudulent unless proven otherwise? Now, if you don't really know what professional skepticism is or really how to apply it, that's okay. We are using these questions to learn about professional skepticism and the things that might cause problems with it, and a little bit about professional judgment as well. So again, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and look at the explanation to learn how this works. All right, here we are. The answer is A, reassessing the risk of material misstatement after identifying new fraud risk indicators. That is applying professional skepticism. Let's go through the explanation. Professional skepticism is a mindset that involves critically evaluating audit evidence and being alert to conditions that may indicate a possible misstatement due to fraud or error. Reassessing the risk of material misstatement when new fraud risk indicators emerge demonstrates the critical thinking and adaptability required to address evolving risks. By contrast, the other options do not reflect professional skepticism. For example, B shows over-reliance on management's integrity without verifying the evidence, while C indicates a disregard for obtaining sufficient appropriate evidence. D reveals an overly suspicious approach that is neither balanced nor aligned with professional skepticism, which requires auditors to neither assume fraud nor dismiss its possibility. Essentially, professional skepticism is you are neither assuming that everybody's lying, but you're also not just going to take everything at face value. If management gives you a representation, you're not saying they're liars, but you are going to take the time to make sure that the evidence supporting the representations is correct and that it works. And you're just, you're a critical thinker. You're critically thinking about all the things that you see. Again, not thinking everything's wrong, but also not assuming everything is right. Professional skepticism is making sure that things look correct rather than just assuming they are or assuming they are not. With all that, let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 2. Which of the following is an example of an impediment to professional skepticism? Okay, is it A, time pressure to complete an audit leads to reliance on easily obtained evidence instead of obtaining the best evidence available? Is it B, identifying fraud risk factors and expanding audit procedures to address them? Is it C, seeking evidence that contradicts management's representations? Or is it D, using prior year audit work papers as a starting point for current year planning? Again, which one of these is something that impedes professional skepticism? Based on reading through this, you probably have an idea. Let's go ahead and look at the answer together to learn a little bit about impediments to professional skepticism. All right, here we are. The answer is A, time pressure to complete an audit leads to reliance on easily obtained evidence instead of obtaining the best evidence available. That is something that would be an impediment to professional skepticism. Let's talk about this. Time pressure is a significant impediment to professional skepticism because it can cause auditors to prioritize speed over thoroughness. When auditors rely on easily obtained evidence rather than the most appropriate or reliable evidence, they risk overlooking material misstatements or fraud indicators. This tendency compromises the quality of the audit and contradicts the principles of professional skepticism, which require auditors to critically evaluate evidence regardless of the effort involved in obtaining it. Other impediments include financial incentives, pressure to maintain client relationships, or over-reliance on management's integrity, all of which can create unconscious biases. Auditors can mitigate these challenges by planning sufficient time for procedures, seeking corroboration from third parties, and reassessing risks throughout the audit. Basically, there's a lot of things that can impede professional skepticism. Something that I thought was interesting was where a lot of this can be unconscious. If you just in the back of your mind know that you have to have good client relationships and you don't want to lose this client, then you might not be as skeptical as you should be, maybe even unconsciously, because you want to make sure that you maintain a good client relationship, when in reality, you have to make sure that everything is correct and you have to get the correct evidence and make sure that everything supports itself. And other things can cause that as well. Again, finance incentives, maybe you need to make sure you keep this client because you need to keep the money, or maybe you really want to trust the management, so you're too scared to question what they say, so you're not as professionally skeptical as you should be. Again, all of these things can impede professional skepticism, where professional skepticism looks like no matter what the situation is, even if you want to keep a good client relationship, you are still taking the time to plan procedures, you're still corroborating things with third parties, and so on. With all that, that was a question about impeding professional skepticism. Let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 3. An auditor is performing an audit of a manufacturing company. In which of the following scenarios does professional judgment play a critical role? Okay, is it A, evaluating whether an uncorrected misstatement is material to the financial statements? Is it B, ensuring the audit team adheres to the firm's checklist for completing the audit file? Is it C, selecting an appropriate font size for the client's audit report? Or is it D, confirming that accounts receivable balances are accurate by sending standard confirmations to customers? So out of all these, we're talking about professional judgment here now instead of professional skepticism. Think about this. It's not usually too difficult if you think through the options. So I think you should pause the video, think through this, and then when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the answer together. All right, here we are. The answer is A, evaluating whether an uncorrected misstatement is material to the financial statements. That is applying professional judgment. So let's walk through this. Professional judgment involves the application of an auditor's training, experience, and ethical principles to make decisions that are not explicitly addressed by standards but are critical to achieving audit objectives. Standards and rules can't tell you everything that you need to do. That would be impossible. So you do have to apply professional judgment. Evaluating materiality, and that was answer A again, requires auditors to consider both quantitative and qualitative factors, assess the impact of misstatements on financial statement users, and determine whether adjustments are needed to maintain fair presentation. The other scenarios in the question involve tasks that are either administrative, and that was the example in C, or procedural, and that was the example in D, which require diligence but not professional judgment. Similarly, following a firm's checklist, and that was B, is essential for consistency but does not involve applying nuanced decision-making. So again, professional judgment comes in when you're trying to figure out materiality or trying to figure out if evidence is sufficient and appropriate and things like that. Things where the rules can't tell you exactly what to do and you just have to base it off of your knowledge and your experience. You have to apply your own professional judgment. So with that, that's a little bit about professional judgment. Let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 4. Which of the following actions does not reflect the application of professional skepticism? So let's go ahead and read through these. These probably won't be too difficult, but again, this is the kind of stuff you have to train yourself to read through everything carefully, because usually there's one or two answers that are not, they just pretty obviously are wrong. So you want to read through all of them to make sure that you know the one or two that are probably right. Let's look at A, investigating contradictory evidence that calls into question the reliability of management provided documents. There's B, performing additional procedures to verify management's assertions when fraud indicators are present. There's C, focusing only on audit evidence that supports management's representations and disregarding contradictory evidence. And then there's D, assessing the reliability of audit evidence obtained from external third parties. Now, we learned about professional skepticism in question 1, so I think you can probably figure this out. If you don't already know the answer, pause the video, think about this, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the answer together. All right, here we are. The answer is C, focusing only on audit evidence that supports management's representations and disregarding contradictory evidence is not applying professional skepticism. So let's walk through this. Professional skepticism requires auditors to maintain a questioning mindset. So again, not a thinking everybody's lying mindset, but a questioning one. You want to make sure you understand everything. And to consider all relevant information, including evidence that contradicts management's assertions. Ignoring contradictory evidence signals a lack of skepticism, potentially leading to overlooked misstatements or fraud. Actions such as investigating contradictory evidence, we mentioned that a whole bunch already in option A, performing additional procedures in response to fraud risk factors, that was B, and assessing the reliability of external evidence, that was D, all align with professional skepticism. Failing to properly apply skepticism, such as by dismissing contradicting evidence, compromises both the audit's thoroughness and its ability to detect material misstatements. So again, professional skepticism, a questioning mind. You just want to make sure everything's correct. You're not taking everything at face value, but you're also not totally distrusting everybody. You just have an open mind to things that could be wrong. With all that, let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 5. How are professional skepticism and professional judgment connected during an audit? So there's option A, professional skepticism replaces the need for professional judgment by ensuring all evidence is treated as fraudulent until verified. There's B, professional skepticism supports professional judgment by encouraging critical evaluation of evidence before forming conclusions. And there's C, professional judgment is unnecessary when professional skepticism is applied consistently. And there's D, professional skepticism and professional judgment are unrelated and address different aspects of an audit. So are they connected? Based on everything we've learned so far, you can probably have a good idea of the correct answer. So if you need to, pause the video, and when you're ready, come back. We'll look at the answer together. All right, here we are. The answer is B. Professional skepticism supports professional judgment by encouraging critical evaluation of evidence before forming conclusions. So let's walk through this. Of course, these are related. Professional skepticism and professional judgment are deeply intertwined. Skepticism ensures auditors maintain a questioning mindset, critically assess evidence, and remain alert to potential misstatements due to fraud or error. This thorough evaluation of evidence underpins professional judgment, which involves applying expertise, experience, and auditing standards to make well-reasoned decisions about risks, procedures, and final conclusions. For instance, professional skepticism compels auditors to verify the reliability of management's representations with independent sources. In turn, professional judgment determines whether the corroborative evidence gathered is sufficient and appropriate. Without skepticism, auditors risk accepting unreliable information. Without judgment, auditors may misinterpret or fail to tailor procedures to the situation. Both are essential for delivering a high-quality audit that provides reasonable assurance over the financial statements. So, professional skepticism and professional judgment are intertwined, and obviously that makes sense. You have to have a critical thinking mind to know what you should be looking for, and then you have to also use the information that you learned from that critical thinking to then apply judgments. With that, before we do anything else, let's do one more part of the SuperfastCPA process called Pillar Topics. Now, the idea behind Pillar Topics with SuperfastCPA is as you're going through the questions to learn the material, you will notice the things that keep popping up. You'll notice you had 2 or 3 questions trying to teach you about what impedes professional skepticism, or whatever the case may be. Or you might also notice that a certain topic has very few questions. This is one of those where it's not a huge topic, but it is still important to know. So again, these are the kinds of things that you pay attention to, and as you're going through the material, you write out these pillar topics in your own words so that you know what you are learning from the questions and you know what is important for test day. So with all that, let's go ahead and look at the pillar topics for this video. Okay, here we are at the pillar topics. Let's just walk through these. Professional skepticism. This is a mindset of critical assessment and alertness to possible misstatements, requiring auditors to verify rather than blindly trust management's representations. Here are some of the common impediments to professional skepticism. Factors like time pressure, financial incentives, and over-reliance on management's integrity can undermine auditors' ability to stay objective and skeptical. And by the way, just a reminder, a lot of these can be unconscious. You might not realize that the time pressure and that the financial incentives or that over-relying on management is something that's actually happening. You might unconsciously be doing it. So you have to pay attention when you are doing an audit, looking for those kinds of things that impede your professional skepticism. Then there's professional judgment. This involves applying expertise and experience to make well-reasoned decisions about risks, evidence, and conclusions, especially when situations are not strictly rule-based. And then finally, of course, there is a connection between skepticism and judgment. Professional skepticism underpins professional judgment by ensuring that decisions are based on thorough, critical evaluation of all available evidence, and then you can make your judgment based on that. So with all that, we learned a lot about professional skepticism and what impedes it, and we also learned a little bit about professional judgment, and that is it for this video. Again, we're only doing 5 questions for this video, even for the members, but typically pro members would get access to a full 10-question version of this video where I would go over a few more questions, and that is the case most of the time. So if you liked this and you like the other videos about audit, remember that becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member will give you access to the full 10-question videos that I usually make for these topics. And Pro members will get access to that, and they get more practice and more understanding from that. So if you like this, make sure you check out the SuperfastCPA training webinar, and after you watch that, become a Pro member. And with all that, I hope you liked the video. I hope this was helpful. If you did like the video, make sure to like it and leave a comment. And with all that, again, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.